much like Trevor Stephan on Sunday, Jeff and I took way too long to plan out this podcast with very little sense of urgency to actually start recording because that's just how this weekend went for the Guardians. But we're going to get to it now, and hopefully we don't leave ourselves in the game too long where we end up blowing the whole thing.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the now 1,000 plus episodes of Locked On Guardians. We did our stream. We've not actually recorded together in a week, so it's been a bit of time. Want to take a moment and say this episode of Locked On Guardians brought to you by eBay Motors. Chevy User's team is about making a perfect fit. Same with the vehicles. So for parts that fit, head to eBay Motors. Look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. Let's ride eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Having said that, we'll get into the Trevor Stephan. I wanted to say, like, as we were texting, I have an elderly neighbor who's been struggling. So my daughter and I go and we walk the dogs and we help. And I kind of decided, you know what, I'm walking away from this game. And I was texting Justin as he was kind of telling me how it ended. And I was like, yes, Trevor Stephan did lose this game, but you have to give a big assist to coaching who left a guy in there who clearly didn't have it. And we'll talk about some of that and some of the concerns we've had for a bit with that. But first, let's talk about the biggest news. Shane Bieber and a sore forearm / elbow.
Officially elbow inflammation, which
yes,
you always want to hear when it comes to your ace and your guy that you've been talking about trading for the next few months.
That's not going to affect his trade value.
No, I don't think at all. I think
2 of the last 3 years with injury concerns, but no surgery involved, just like keeps powering his way through it, but his results are diminishing. That won't be
I think teams will be lining up to trade plenty of teenagers to get Shane Bieber at this point. Can you trade Shane Bieber for future draft picks? Can baseball start allowing that yet?
Really just trade for the current ones, right? Let's start call up Texas. I like Wyatt Langford. Let's talk.
Let's get that done. Yeah, Shane Bieber is going to miss. He's not going to pitch for the next 2 weeks. Not going to throw for the next 2 weeks, period. So not only is he not going to throw for the next 2 weeks, then he's going to have to probably go on a rehab assignment. And that's just if they're going to evaluate him after that. He is not guaranteed to start throwing again. They're going to have to come back and evaluate him. So obviously that officially takes him, unless there's a team out there that like is just medical gods and they see, it's fine. It's just an elbow. We'll trade for it. Maybe the Yankees. The Yankees last year did trade for Frankie Montas, despite the fact that everyone was like, yeah, his arm's not right. And then he got to New York and he went on the IL pretty quickly. So maybe the Yankees will be like, yeah, it's fine. We love injured players. Their IL is filled with guys that are big name guys in the injured list. Isn't Aaron Judge still hurt? Like, the Yankees love those dudes. Maybe the Yankees would like to trade. You know what? Clint Frazier, Miguel Andujar. That's what the Guardians need, obviously, is Clint Frazier and Miguel Andujar. But yeah, he's going to be evaluated in 2 weeks or week by week. Doesn't need surgery, I guess, is the good news here. But Shane, I don't know. I don't know what happens next for the Guardians and Bieber. Like, they managed to trade Corey Kluber in the 2019 offseason after he was hit by that comeback on his forearm.
Clevenger being made of paper mache.
Yeah, they moved him, and they've been able, and Carrasco's had his ups and downs. I will say the one thing I was looking at was elbow inflammation. I do recall Carlos Carrasco almost every spring training having elbow inflammation, and then he was fine. Which so that happens sometimes. There's no guarantees here, but
it's like we were texting too. It's like I'm like, this just feels to me like back in 2021, maybe something should have been done. Like, is this the fact that, and go back to that article where Wiley said like, it'd be great if he could throw 95, but basically he can't.
Willis.
Willis. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Mark Wiley, good throwback.
Mark Wiley. Yeah, I don't know why I was going back to Mark Wiley. That's a weird throwback. I don't know where I pulled that one from, but yeah, Carl Willis, not Mark Wiley. Wow. Yeah, it's like it made it sound like his arm is already having a hard time holding up. I just can't help but, and again, this is pure speculation, but I'm like, before it was the shoulder, did he mess with his delivery and now it's putting more torque on that elbow and forearm, and now we're seeing this problem? How much of this is just because nothing has ever been taken care of? It's just been, rest it and see if it gets better. Before this, he was ineffective, and it's the same thing, where it's hard to judge Kyle Quantrill, right? Like, apparently he rushed back. Why are they letting guys rush back? Why are they letting guys power through injuries as pitchers? This is Quantrill and Bieber. I know we have no pitching left. Yes, you're going down and getting guys
talk about that.
I almost said Guntis. I guess is that when I'm combining Hunter Gaddis into one. I don't know.
Who?
With himself. Guntis is Hunter Gaddis. But yeah, Gaddis, you got Cantillo, who are guys already on the 40. You don't have a lot of options, but don't let your pitchers pitch through pain. Can we just say that is a bad idea? There is degrees of pain. I understand there's always degrees of pain, but don't let a pitcher pitch through an injury. I don't think I should have to say that. That should just be pitching is fragile. And this is a guy who maybe we're 50-50 about trading. You should be extra careful. Not put some, back when I played Pee Wee football, put some ice on it. We could have our knee sticking out of our skin and they just tell us to ice it and elevate. That's how it worked. I feel this is the approach with these pitchers, where Quantrill came back too early, was ineffective for a month and his 2 starts afterwards. Oh, well, we don't want to rush it. Well, maybe we shouldn't have pushed it in the first place. And now with Bieber, it's it's been bothering him for a while. Why was he pitching?
Yeah, that's the confusing thing to me. Is this why he's not been relying on the curveballs much? Is it a pain issue? And I'll say this: I think that every baseball player, especially pitchers, like you said, there's levels of pain, and it's July, so almost every player doesn't feel great in July. That's why they call it the dog days. August, whatever. When you get into the dog days of summer, nobody feels great, and you're gonna play through some amount of pain, and depends on how much it is. Jose Ramirez last year is a good example of this, right? He thought he could play through it, and it messed some things up. And he was a league average player, which tells you how amazing he is. He was a league average hitter. I don't know. That obviously didn't hurt the Guardians too much because they were great in the second half and they made the playoffs, and he hit a big home run in the playoffs. I don't know. But Shane Bieber, maybe he thought he could do the same thing. But yeah, it's weird. Were the Guardians having him? I'm not saying they were putting him in danger, because I don't think they would do that. If they thought he needed to be shut down, I think they would have done so. At least they weren't keeping him pitching, even though he said he couldn't pitch. You know what I mean? I guarantee Bieber didn't want to not pitch because his contract's on the line, right? Because he wants to get to free agency, he wants to get paid. Yep. He bettered himself. They never made any progress with extensions. But the other side of this too is this was ongoing. He was pitching through this, so it explains some of the issues. I don't know if it explains the issues he had third time through the order. Maybe it does, because the stuff he was healthy or strong enough to go twice through the order, and the third time came and his arm was just out of gas, and that was it. But the other side of that is, for the Guardians, it's a two-sided coin. If you're going to trade him, he needs to pitch. If they put him on, and it doesn't really matter now, because look, teams have access to the medicals. It's not like you're hiding anything. You can't hide medical stuff from other teams. You can say, we have a deal done, and the other team gets the medicals, and they're like, yeah, this is fine, even though there's an issue there. They were going to see that.
The San Diego Padres with
Colin Ray.
Colin Ray, and that's why they did not have
Andrew Kashner. Yes. Yeah, that's what it was.
It was and hey, it's the same guy who's still there. So it was Preller who made that deal and tried to hide.
Yeah, well, the Marlins GM got fired before that, they've been through a lot of GMs. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes that happens, and the deal did get voided and had to go back. But yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing. If they were going to trade him, because that's the one thing the Guardians. We can have a conversation with this in the future about the front office and decisions, and I know there are a lot of questions about what they've done recently and where they're going, which we also want to get into at some point. But the one thing they've been good at is they've been good at trading away pitchers before they break, right? Kluber. The Kluber injury before they traded him was a fluke. It was a line drive off the forearm, and they still managed to trade him for Emmanuel Clase. But that wasn't a self-inflicted injury. But it's not like Kluber was.
One could argue Carrasco was one where they missed. I mean, he was basically a pure salary dump at that point.
Well, he had one good year with the Mets. He has not been good for them this year, I don't think.
I mean, it was good enough for them to pick up the option, but he was a salary dump at the time. They didn't.
He was, and I feel like Bieber has been reaching the point where you're like, okay, it's time to get out from under this just before it happens. And maybe it's too late now. But at the same time, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to. I don't know. Everybody thought at the time of trading Kluber, they took pennies on the dollar and they turned him into an all-star closer. I don't know if anybody saw that coming, but that was a fluke injury. This is not a fluke injury. This is a arm injury for a pitcher. Like the words shoulder and elbow and forearm are not good for a pitcher, and everybody's going to look at that and wonder. So yeah, the trade value is sapped. Obviously, he's not going to be able to be traded this year because he's not going to pitch again before the trading deadline. If he does, or if someone takes a risk on him, then okay, I don't think you're getting much of a return if you're doing that. But it puts the offseason into question too, right? Because what's the value going into the winter? Does he come back and pitch this year? How effective is he? Do you trade him? Is it better off that he pitches for you and rebuilds his value, or you trade him next year if this same thing happens, which, God forbid. But I don't know. There's a lot of questions now, and it just this definitely takes the steam out of the deadline, because I think the Guardians are probably not going to do a whole lot.
I agree. And, we didn't get to like the who's going to come up next, how things will fill in. We'll kind of get to discuss that as the week goes on. But I think the big thing with Bieber right now is he's going to be in Cleveland through this season, more than likely. I'd say it's 99%. And really no one can predict anything beyond that. But this is, it's massive news, and we'll be covering it fully. But in terms of, we still got the whole weekend. We have, some talk about this team in general, but we got to hit the break. We'll be back in a second on Locked On Guardians. Want a chance to win more money with less picks? Head to Sleeper, where you can earn up to 100 times your money on just 2 or more fantasy baseball picks. Do you think the Miles Straw can hit a home run against the opposing pitcher tomorrow? Well, we sure do. No, we don't. I'm kidding. And on Sleeper, you can swing for the fences up to 100 times payouts. All you have to do is choose 2 or more players you like and select more or less on their stat categories like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win big. So this is, a daily fantasy site where you can go, and instead of being focused on the whole performance, you can focus on specific stats, numbers, and kind of choose things like triples, stolen bases, home runs. I know the Locked On Mariners hosts were fans of Sleeper, and they're expanding into baseball. That's why this is fun and exciting. You can be at the cutting edge of Sleeper's newest expansion. Use the promo code Locked On. You can get $100 off your first match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today.
Guardians are back at home. They're back at home Monday against the Pirates. You can check. I'm sorry, they are not back at home. They are at Pittsburgh, but you can listen to that game and Tom Hamilton and Jim Rosenhaus by searching Guardians on your Sirius XM app. That is going to be, by the way, Xavier Curry supposedly is going to be making the bullpen start. It's going to be a bullpen game. And then it's going to be Quinn Priester making his major league debut. Speaking of guys whose stuff has regressed, kind of surprised about that one for the Pirates. Can we just talk about too the whole pitching plan thing? Like, so when this whole when the news came out last week about how Bieber, it was the end of the week, how Bieber wasn't going to make his start on Monday, Logan Allen was already penciled in for Tuesday because they needed someone to come back for that start. And then the rotation in Columbus that over the weekend was Plesac Friday, Cantillo on Saturday, and Gaddis on Sunday. All those guys made those starts. So the Guardians knew that Shane Bieber couldn't pitch Monday. They knew they needed Logan Allen Tuesday, and they were going to go with the bullpen game on Monday, hoping the bullpen wasn't torched too much over the weekend. Guess what? Friday, the bullpen got torched. And then Monday or Sunday, one person was torched. But can we just talk about how the fact that, not that I'm saying he deserves a second chance right now because he's pitched terribly, but it's like, okay, Zach Plesac Monday, not an option. He's going to pitch Friday. Cantillo, it's probably a little bit too soon, but I think we're getting close to that time when we can start talking about him as an option. The only issue is he has pitched more innings this year than he has the last 2 years combined, and they're going to be careful about that. So that's my only drawback there. And then Hunter Gaddis started on Sunday, I believe. Did he pitch today for them? Because he was a scheduled starter. So the Guardians just went straight through all that, and we're like, oh, okay. Like, we're not even gonna bring one of these guys up for that Monday start. We're just gonna go with the bullpen game. and they were gonna see how it went this weekend in Texas, and it didn't go good, but for the bullpen at least. But that's interesting that they just decided to blow past all those options. Not one of those guys got pulled from their start.
Yeah, they when you get right down to it, to me, the only one, it's like, wow, I'm kind of surprised Gaddis. Like, he feels like he's your depth guy. I kind of get Cantillo, as you said, pitch counts and everything else. It also just speaks to how crappy, I know people get kind of annoyed with me when I bring this up, how bad the minors have been this year pitching wise. Like, there isn't anyone who's batting, pushing down that door. And again, you go back to the beginning of the year, Savali is the only guy left in this rotation from then. And he missed significant time. And on top of that, it's easy to gloss over the fact Peyton Batenfield had a month's worth of starts and is also on the 60-man disabled list. So, they are down, they had the starting 5, and then you had Batenfield.
4 out of the 5 are either.
Yeah. So you had Batenfield at 6, then you add the 3 rookies, and that takes you 7, 8, 9. So we're already on pitcher number 10 this year.
Don't forget the Gaddis started the year in the rotation.
Yeah, Gaddis. So that is, I left him off. So that's 10. So the next guy up is starting pitcher number 11. You don't plan to go 11 deep. Let's just be honest. No one's planning on their 11th starter. You'd like to have the depth, but part of that is you're also thinking someone's going to step up. You're thinking, that maybe one of the guys who was hurt would come back. And it has. Savali has been really effective. Kudos to him. All 3 rookies so far have really stepped up. But it's been so bad in terms of the pitching in AAA. They keep reaching outside the system, which they've almost ever done. Adding like Chris Valmont, like he might get a start chance to. I mean, I know he's been working out of the pen, is not as a starter, but they called up Cody Morris, who had a rough game the other day. I was kind of surprised they didn't try to stretch him out. And adding guys like Jason Billis, and it's like, well, he's a starter. We can see what happens, maybe. But no, it's Daniel Norris. Did Daniel Norris start a game? Did Norris come up and
he's been doing a little bit of both. I mean, there was a claim that he wasn't going to sign with anybody unless they let him start in the minors, and then he has pretty much been a swingman for them.
Yeah, but no, and that's the thing. Like, you look at the AA side of things, no one's really pushing their way up to AAA. There's not a prospect. It's kind of ugly right now. Like, for as much as we've talked about the pitching depth, unfortunately, as we discussed going to break, no one's really stepping up. This is not a pretty top 10. Like this, a year ago at this time after the draft, they re-ranked things at the beginning of August. Cleveland had a top 5 farm system. I'm pretty sure they're not going to even have a top 10 one. I wouldn't be surprised if they're closer to 20 or even past 20. Honestly, this is a situation where a lot of guys have taken step backs, and I can count on one hand the number of guys who have taken step forwards. Like almost the entire prospect list that we put together as a top 30. And I know, yes, I stop putting mine together. I'll post it somewhere instead. It felt weird going back and reading one that is not incorrect, that is largely incorrect now. But it's like people aren't stepping up. Most people are stepping back. It's been an ugly year in the minors.
I mean, I didn't really intend to get into top 100 stuff, and top 100 is so subjective, obviously. But like, you'll still have Daniel Espino. People are still banking on that, even though he was hurt. You'll still have Chase. I don't know. At some point, Chase DeLauder might step into that. He is a top 100.
He needs to get up to like high A and stay healthy. Like if he gets up to high A, or he's in high A now. I'm sorry.
He's in double A. He needs to be double A. He needs to help.
Double A, yes. I said the wrong thing. Double A and be healthy. I was like, he's in double A and I missed it. But I said the wrong thing. I misspoke. My bad.
He's in like Juan Brito is top 100 adjacent.
Can one make a case right now? Juan Brito is the number 2 prospect in system.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very fair case. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about like guys who graduated, like Williams and Bybee and Naylor,
because I feel like all 3 starters have graduated. Like
he's up there with Rocchio for sure. We talked about that the other. I think we talked about that the other day. But also, I want to point out officially today, and this is both good and bad for the Guardians. This is good for future Guardians, bad for current Guardians. Tanner Bybee today with his great start against the Rangers. Past Shane Bieber in F4 today. He's got 76 innings this year. Bieber's got 117, and he already passed him in F4. He's got 5 less starts than Bieber. That is good for Tanner and not great for Shane. Not great.
We're in a weird situation where it almost feels like if this team really wants to compete, and let's be honest, the only reason they're competing is because of the division they play in. They might need to trade for pitching, which is an impossible market to trade for. But like that is where it is in terms of depth with this team. It's like, I mean, I hate to even consider stretching out Xavier Curry because he's been so effective in his role, but I don't know what you do. Right now, I honestly it's funny if you go look at roster resource, it lists the July 25th starter as Peyton Batenfield, even though he's still on the 16.
There has not even been a conversation about that.
I know, but that's how the depth has been so stretched this year. It's like last year they were so healthy, and part of the reason I was so bullish last season was in 2021 they were so unhealthy, and then last year they were overly healthy. It's been like the extremes, and that's part of it here. We should actually probably talk about these games. This is a series they could have won, and 2 bullpen implosions, and in some ways I thought it was almost poetic. Those first 2 games, one a complete offensive no-show, and the other the bullpen explosion.
That's how it's gone for them this year, right?
Yeah. I mean,
when the offense shows up, they've had some very ill-timed bullpen meltdowns, and when the bullpen is good and the pitching is good, the offense isn't there. Look, all 3 starting pitchers were fantastic this weekend.
They got the job done.
Gavin had control issues on Saturday, without a doubt, but he pitched through it, and that's a tough lineup. Bybee also, was a tough lineup, and he took a couple comebackers, which was scary, but he pitched through it, and he was actually great, and his slider was fantastic. And then
hit by Savali, 2 pitches, like
the foot, and then the foot, and then the comebacker off his glove, which was
that was it. It was just we thought it was, and then it wasn't. It was just a glove, but still,
yeah. But he was fantastic, and he had his slider was good. I mean, his last pitch of the game was last strikeout of the game was 96. He was rearing back and pumping, which was good. And then Savali was great Friday, although Savali only threw 79. And pitches. that was a case about the third time through the order, which the broadcast brought up, which I actually loved. And that's definitely a concern, especially against how good this lineup is. I'm wondering, is it because how good the Rangers lineup is that didn't happen? And people are going to say, "Oh, he took him out too soon." I personally believe that it's better for a manager to take a pitcher out too soon than too late. And for all the griping we've done about the Guardians bullpen in spurts and this weekend that we're going to talk about, the bullpen has been as a whole fine. They've just had some inopportune meltdowns. Like you said, it almost feels like their stats are kind of buoyed by, I don't want to say garbage time performances, but they kind of are.
They just had to pitch so much that it's like when the bad ones happen, it's just kind of a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, Nick Sandlin's been good. Like you said, Curry's been good. Cody Morris just kind of got left out there on Friday to kind of take one. The bullpen didn't matter who you brought in. The bullpen was horrendous. There's a lot of times where Tito brings a reliever and everyone's like, why did he bring him in that spot? Well, you know what? Every reliever he brought in on Friday literally crapped the bed. They were all awful. The Rangers torched them. Didn't matter who you brought in. And then, Stefan on Sunday was unfortunately the guy that really, really blew up, and he had 3 good outings in a row, and now he's kind of lost his way again.
I'm kind of curious with him because I was playing with Savant sliders, and his extension has a significant. I have to go look at the data. Unless the rest of the league got a little bit better, but it goes 70th percentile to 65th percentile. Makes me wonder if the extent a 5 percentile drop is typically not just a league change. That's something with him. And I wonder if he is not completely extending, if there's a degree of rushing with the pitch clock. I'd be curious to look at where his extension is overall. That was just a quick look. Watch me be totally full of it, but that's just looking at, I wonder if he's maybe not getting that full extension right now.
That's actually a really good point, because I think, and other people have talked about it too. Class A talked about with, I think, Zach Meisel about being affected by the pitch clock. Not specifically, but that was what they determined was a part of the factor.
Stefan was not a reliever when he experienced the pitch clock. He was a starter then. So he's a guy where the pitch clock is new in that role. He had a different.
And him and De Los Santos in Class A, and obviously Karinchak, were all extremely slow last year. They were some of the slowest pitchers in terms of pace. So the pitch clock was likely to affect them the most. So I do wonder if there's a degree of that there. But he was good the entire month of June. And then that Royals series we talked about, he was pretty awful. And he hasn't been the same since. He had a good outing against the Braves. And then he had back-to-back outings against the Royals where he was fine. But that's the Royals. Even though he was bad earlier than today. So, hard to say with him next, too. I mean, a lot of conversation around that. 6 batters, 2 walks, 23 pitches, 12 strikes. I mean, he just didn't have it. And when he threw strikes, they were meatballs. And it just came apart very fast. And yeah, speaking of very fast, we have run through the end of the show very quickly. So
yes,
I want to finish with asking you about the conversation we want to get into.
Right?
Yes. let's finish that conversation here in just a second. Guardians and Pirates should be a fun one. 7:05 on Monday night. If you want to listen on the XM app, just search for Guardians on your Sirius XM app. Okay, so here's a devil's advocate question that we're not going to be able to answer on this episode, but if you listen the rest of the week, I guarantee we will get to it because that's what we're going to talk about. It's July. It's trading deadline season. We've talked about Aaron Savali before, and you talked about how the Guardians need to trade for pitching. I definitely want to have a conversation about like who stays, who goes on this team. Like, I don't want to say 2.5 games behind is a death sentence in this division because it's not. Because I don't think the Twins are a good team, and the Guardians were 5.5 out back in early June. So clearly, this ground can be made up and they can get hot. I'm not worried the Guardians can't win this division, but I'm also worried that they're only competing against their own peers versus. Whatever, they're not in the Champions League, right? So, you said they need to trade for pitching. If we're being
like half joking.
Well, I know you're half joking. Yeah. They're not going to, obviously, but unless they're talking about like a long-term starter, which I don't see that's happening either, because I don't know who realistically is on the market. Devil's advocate here, because the Guardians are very good about getting out from under pitchers before they break. Because he's had a history of breaking and he's now pitching really good, and the trade market for pitchers is going to absolutely stink this next 2 weeks. Do you consider trading Aaron Savali?
Yeah, and call me crazy because people are like, "How can you say that? He's maybe their best pitcher right now." I've seen a lot of people say he's the new ace because you're selling high. Sell at peak for a guy who is never healthy. He has never had a healthy season, and yes, teams aren't dumb; they'll know that as well, but. Right. He has never pitched as well. He is going to get hurt again before the year is done. Mark my words. Like, that's just what happens. He can only
We're not wishing he does.
We're not wishing that, but it's like every 2 months he misses a few weeks. Like, he just can't seem to hold up. So if I can get a decent trade offer, I do. Even though this team has no pitching. But again, I don't have a lot of faith in this year in general. I don't view this as a competitive year. So yeah.
Again, I've said it multiple times. I think that the year the Guardians are having right now is the year they thought they were going to have a year ago, and instead everything clicked at once and they blossomed. And it's the reverse, where they're treading water and they're showing signs, but we're looking at the contents of AL Central. If they were in the AL East, this would be a lost year. They would be sellers. There's no doubt. So I would trade Savali. I know we talked about how they don't have a lot of innings, they don't have a lot of guys to run to at this point. But if you can get an offer for Savali, I agree, because who out there is being traded? Like, who has a pitcher to offer on the market? Like, the Cardinals are going to sell, but they have nothing to sell. Their pitching staff is terrible, other than Jordan Montgomery.
I would kind of like Cleveland to.
The Athletics have no trades.
To talk with Jack Flattery this offseason. Because he feels like a fixer, right? Like, he's that guy I tried to get in a 2-year deal.
Did you hear the comments to me about his velocity, though? I don't know about that. That's difficult.
I mean,
he got a whole fight with reporters about his velocity. It was not fun.
He had such good velocity, and his stuff was better, a few years ago, and he's only like 27. He just feels like a guy for Cleveland to maximize.
Like, the Mets might sell, but like they're going to sell what? Verlander and Scherzer? Who's trading for those guys? They're not pitching well. They have giant contracts. They are over 40.
That's the point where I'm kind of like, listen, this team is falling apart. Let's bring Cookie home, like just for eat some innings.
Right. Yeah.
You need innings. You maybe want another vet. He's been league average by Baseball Reference. He's not been good.
Lance Lynn might get moved. Like, I'm just trying to think of guys who are moving, and it's not great.
It's not a good amount.
If you throw Savali into the mix and consider the fact that Savali, he's 28, but he has club
control or 2 years.
Yeah, 2025. So he's got 2 years after this. So you got him for 3 years. Yeah, 2.5 years. So I don't know. And he's not making a whole lot in arbitration because he hasn't pitched a lot of innings. I know it's a difficult thing to say, but like, you can't trade Bieber now. McKenzie probably isn't pitching again this year. We don't know what's going to happen with Bieber, and I know it really wrenches things about how are they going to be able to limit their rookies out innings. But it's like, if you really want to talk about improving this club for the future, at least going the next year, because I can't see them wasting another year of Jose Ramirez's contract. Like, you kind of have to give up on the Bieber thing at this point until you figure out what's going on with his elbow and what's going to happen to him next. Like, that's already a wasted, I don't want to say sunk cost. That's the wrong word, but you know what I mean? Like, you've already wasted Shane Bieber's best years. They're behind him, essentially, yes. In theory. Maybe not. Maybe once he gets healthy, he can go back to the pitcher he was. I don't know, maybe. But if you want to try to re-rack things for next year, I kind of think Savali is your best trade piece. Like, I know it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but the pitching market's going to stink. The trade deadline. I said last week on here on last Friday, I said this trade deadline is going to be boring. It's going to suck.
Yeah, there's not a lot. And it's the same thing we talked about this offseason. There's not a lot of people who are really looking to sell. In general,
the league is in a weird place. Yeah,
it's like I just go around and you look at a lot of teams. Like, I know people have been bringing up the Dodgers since the offseason because of the Gavin Lux and his injury, but it's like that's a team that right now is, Jake Marisnick is on their bench. They haven't figured out is Michael Busch.
Cody Bellinger.
Like, as Michael Busch, why is he not? Is there an issue there? Why is he not broken through? Miguel Vargas is already down in AAA again. There's not a lot of great choices. I kind of went through all of it. The team I still think is kind of interesting, and would maybe make the most sense in a weird way for Savali because they would like the fact he has multiple years is Arizona. And they have so many outfielders. They have so many young players. They're kind of trying to figure it all out. They brought up Dominic Canzone from Walsh High School recently, who
that's your guy.
It was nice to see him get an opportunity. That kid is hit. Like, I just liked watching him at Ohio State, and he's hit at every level. Hopefully, get an opportunity. He got the DH1 game. Alec Thomas is actually starting to hit a little for them. It's been a while for him. They've got pieces and parts, and they're an interesting team, and they have outfielders, and Merrill Kelly is out for them, so down even more. And Dre Jamison was supposed to be a starter for them potentially, and he's out hurt. So they need something. It's like, I don't know what the pieces are in that one. They got Kyle Lewis in AAA, Pavin Smith, Dominic Fletcher, a lot of guys who aren't really any good, but that's an interesting team to consider.
I mean, already seems like Jake McCarthy is a perfect fit, right? He has a lot of contact. He has a lot of speed. He plays good defense. He has absolutely zero power. That just seems like the guy that the Guardians would make number one among their targets in the trade, right? Tank for Nick Kurtz. Oh wait, sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that.
It's just I look at them and I don't know, like, they're an interesting squad. I don't know exactly who I would even target there because I don't know. Like, do I believe in Alec Thomas rebounding? Do I believe in one of these young kids? I don't know, but I feel like that's a team that could actually maybe go out, maybe they can get Carlos Vargas for him.
I think that we are done with this conversation today.
No, and I think, to me, the big thing right now is, I think, if you can't tell, I don't have a lot of belief in this season. I've said all year, good teams find ways to win, bad teams find ways to lose. This team has been extraordinary at finding ways to lose, and they're just a mediocre team. Let's be fair. They're not bad. They're mid, to use the parlance of our time, and they're in a bad division, which makes them look better than they are. And I think the most important thing is, try to stay competitive. If you can stay in it, stay in it. But I'd be more focused on next year. Like, let Gabby Arias play. He had the hardest hit ball of the day today,
And he walked. The guy hasn't had 4 plate appearances in a game since June 20. Like, okay, this is Gabby Arias's. We're running out of time, but Gabby Arias. Okay, June 27th, pinch runner first base, no at bat. June 28th. Pinch run, first base, shortstop, 1 plate appearance. June 30th, defensive replacement. July 2nd, pinch run, first base, no plate appearance. Got thrown out stealing. That was great. July 3rd, started at first base, got 1 plate appearance. July 4th, started at first base, got 1 plate appearance. That was because Josh Naylor had that. No, I don't know. Was it the ankle? I don't remember. Anyway, July 5th, pinch runner. July 8th, which, before the break, pinch run, first base. And then he played the last 2 days against left-handers, which, hey, he actually smoked the ball off a lefty and he walked. That's a sign of progress. I just don't get that one. I just don't know.
I mean, again, we'll go back to, like, in May, he was their 3rd best hitter, arguably. and he should be playing against righties. And maybe he is the outfielder.
They demoted Oscar. They demoted Oscar Gonzalez to make more playing time for Gabby Arias.
And then he annoyed them.
Look, I know there's other stuff going on here besides just the on-field stuff, but what are you doing? Like, if he's working on stuff, like, is it really helpful?
He's not playing.
Right? Is it really helpful for the team to be playing with a 25-man roster? And not like, is Oscar Gonzalez a better option right now? No, not really. Like, I know he's hitting the home run the other day, but the guy still hasn't improved his approach. He is still swinging at like almost everything, and that's part of the problem because he can mash AAA pitching. But I don't know, the sense of urgency and whatever's happening this year just seems to have flat.
It feels like a lot of protecting guys, being a nice team and trying to protect guys going into free agency, instead of realizing that these guys aren't part of your window, and Bieber and Ahmed are not here for the next few years, and we got to figure out who is and who are pieces, and we have to stop doing this half approach where we don't give a guy a full opportunity and then they can maybe end up excelling elsewhere. Again, I'm not saying that about Owen Miller or something like that. We've seen the Russian Amin, but we don't know what Gabby Arias can do. We don't know what Rocchio can do. We don't know what Tyler Freeman can do. Like, at some point you have to see what these kids can do, and unfortunately they're not getting those chances right now, and that's my frustration.
Yeah, they spent all last year trying to figure out who was part of the next future, and then they decided, and then ended up winning. And then this year, guys are going through growing pains, but it feels like they are just trying to recapture last year's magic and hoping that reappears. And development's not linear. We can come back. Look, we could be very wrong and look very stupid, and they could wind up going on a hot August and September run. But I think the thing to remember with all this is we are looking at this in the context of the AL Central, where if you take a step back and look at it in the context of the AL Central, this team isn't good this year. I'm not saying they can't be good next year because they're young players. There could be growth, and they have a lot of young pitching. But when you look at them through the context of outside the AL Central this year, they are not a good team right now. And everything just kind of feels held up by the fact that the bar for the AL Central is the floor right now.
Yeah, agreed. I want to take this moment here at the end to thank you for watching, reviewing, downloading, commenting. All of that has been fantastic. We appreciate everyone who's part of the Locked On Guardians team. I don't think I've ever given a shout out to Forest City Spiders, I think is the YouTube guy who I feel like is commenting on almost every show. One of those everydayers out there. Appreciate all of you. Thank you for all you do, and go Guardians, go.